Welcome to session 1 of stream 3. My name is Angela Beeking. I work at Library and Archives Canada as a digital archivist, and it is my pleasure and my honor to be here with you introducing these wonderful finalists for the Digital Preservation Awards. So just to make sure everybody's in the right stream, this is the stream where we'll be hearing from finalists in the digital legacy and commerce industry and third sector categories. So if you happen to be in the wrong session, you can do a shuffle. But as William mentioned, this is an exciting stream. I'm really looking forward to hearing from the speakers. This is the stream where we'll chat about getting on and doing the digital preservation work. So I'll be keeping time for our presenters. If things are going over time, you might hear a little ping of a little bell. I'm not sure how loud that comes through on speakers. I apologize if it's a bit too loud. But yes, there's also collaborative notes, so you're welcome to refer to those or to add to them as we go through. Oh, excellent, Natalie, we hear it well, not too loud. So I've picked the right noise device for timekeeping. Excellent. Okay, so we'll head right on. Our first award is the TNA Award for Safeguarding the Digital Legacy. So just to give a little bit more detail about the award. This award celebrates the practical application of preservation skills and tools to protect at-risk digital objects. So it draws attention to concrete efforts to ensure important elements of our generation's digital memory remains available to future generations. So it doesn't need to involve particularly innovative work, but it must illustrate a clear understanding of the risks that digital objects face and the reasons for ensuring that they are properly managed. So it should be an exemplar case study in why preservation matters, and it must be capable of being described in terms that are readily understood. So for the TNA Award for Safeguarding the Digital Legacy, we're going to hear from our finalists. First up is Maria Jose Loret Alcañez. So, and we have a recording from Maria Jose, and also she's here to chat with us. So I will hand it over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, good evening, everyone. I will share my screen now. Can you see the slide? Yeah. I work at the United Nations Library at Geneva. And in my current role of Digital Preservation Manager, I wish to introduce our project, Preserving the League of Nations Digital Archives. After a short introduction to the archives, I will review the project, the challenges, the solution, the outcome, and the future. The League of Nations Archives consist of almost 3 kilometers of documents dating from 1919 to 1946. Their international importance has been acknowledged by UNESCO with their inscription on the Memory of the World Register. This is an extremely fragile material. In 2017, with the support of a Geneva private foundation, we launched a 5-year project called Total Digital Access to the League of Nations Archives, with the objectives to digitize the content and provide online access, and to ensure the physical and digital preservation of the archives. We had to overcome several challenges concerning the digital preservation and access. Since no digital preservation system was available in our organization, a significant advocacy effort was required to promote the project to the senior management. The amount of expected data is huge. We have estimated a total of 250 terabytes and more than 15 million files. Last but not least, a significant improvement was expected in the data access because the old catalog installed in 2003 was difficult to use. In 2019, we implemented a cloud solution based on Preservica Enterprise Private Cloud System. But then the scanning operations had already produced millions of files that we were keeping in local shared drives. And it was clear that we need to automate the ingest process. We have used Preservica APIs for the submission of data, We have included in the package the descriptive metadata that we have exported from the catalog. We have also minimized the long-term storage cost. Access copies are stored in low-latency Amazon Web Services S3 for immediate access, while preservation copies are stored in low-cost Glacier. The outcome of the project: 110 terabytes of data were ingested in 6 months thanks to the complete automation of the workflow, and it is going now. The structure of the archives catalog has been maintained. The OCR embedded into PDF documents will facilitate the search and discovery for the users. Ingested data immediately is available for researchers for the moment through the Preservica portal. What we plan to do next: implement a new archives management system that will be synchronized with Preservica for metadata updates, and develop our own access portal directly connected to Preservica. And all this to achieve the final goal: strengthen multilateral diplomacy and international relations by ensuring access to the archives for current and next generations of researchers from all over the world. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Have any question?
Yes, can we have a virtual round of applause for this wonderful, wonderful effort? See all the applause. Thank you for your presentation. So first, we'll just check in with Jen. Is there any, or are there any questions in the chat box?
No, we've not had any questions in chat, but people can feel free to unmute their microphones and just ask outright if they have any questions. We're quite a small group in this stream, so do feel free to unmute.
I have one question. My name
Great.
is George Mikuchadze. I'm Georgian Scientific Library. Thank you very much, Maria. It's very interesting because we are doing the same jobs in a scientific, or try to do in a scientific library. We make digital copies of this, our old magazines and journals in Georgia from 1990 to 1939. And you mentioned that during 6 months you have generated approximately 100 and more terabytes data. How many people worked on this project to produce, and what kind of scanners or copiers you used for this reason?
Well, the digitization project is one part, but we are talking about digital preservation, and in fact it's only me and engineers.
Only you?
And people from Preservica, which are helping us. So we automate completely the process. This is, we couldn't use the manual ingest. So that's the beauty of the thing. By automation of the process and the workflows, we are ingesting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this is going very well.
Excellent. Preservica, it's an English company which produce such kind of works for around the world, isn't it? It's English company, United Kingdom company, isn't it? Preservica.
Well, I'm not going to do any publicity for them.
Okay.
But I think it's in England, yeah, and also in the States, yeah.
Thanks. I wish you all success. Thank you very much.
We have one other minute if there's any other questions before we...
Yeah, so there's a question from Melinda Hornton from the National Archives in the United Kingdom. And she asks, what do you want to get from a new AMS to take this forward? So AMS is Archive Management System?
Yes, this is because we have a very old archive management system where we do the cataloging. So the metadata is entered in the archives management system. And we are going to replace it and synchronize with Preservica for metadata updates in the digital preservation part.
Great, thank you. That was a very succinct answer, which is great from Angela's perspective, the timekeeping, I would guess. We'll hand back to Angela.
It was perfect. So thank you so much for that presentation and for all of your work. I agree with what I saw in the chat box. The the amazing numbers is wonderful. So now we have our second group of presenters. Welcome to Ian Cook, Nicola Bingham from the UK Web Archive, the British Library, about the UK Web Archive.
We're the UK Web Archive that is based at the British Library. Brilliant, thank you. So yeah, it's a real privilege for us to join the finalists for Safeguarding the Digital Legacy Award. And it's fantastic to be in such good company alongside the Preservation of the League of Nations Digital Archive we've just heard about, and the Amplifying Change project. So this year, the UK Web Archive celebrates its 15-year anniversary. And anniversaries are important because they offer us a point to look back, to give us a longer term perspective on our work, but also because they prompt us to think about our values as well as our legacy. So thinking about our values, preservation and legacy, I want to talk about three things that we're really proud of. Firstly, we've always stressed that the content matters, and this has led us in everything else. So communication on the web is primarily about the people and the communities that we share our lives with. And preservation of the web matters because it's vital to how we understand ourselves now and how we understand our recent past. So from our beginnings, we've made the case that the web is not trivial, it should be valued, and we continue to make that case. Being led by content can result in complex and innovative technological interventions, such as how we work through the continued monitoring and refinement of our domain crawls to ensure we're as comprehensive as we can be. But it's also about making sure we understand the content and the people creating it. And I was thinking very much back to the session we've just heard there. So we also reach out to communities and groups to help create collections. And this leads to my second point. We work collaboratively. And this has been at the heart of the UK Web Archive, which has always existed as a collaborative venture between organisations. And now we link up the 6 legal deposit libraries of the UK. Collaboration is vital to build and maintain the capacity that all organisations active in web archiving need to meet the preservation challenges presented by the live web. And a key part of this has been the International Internet Preservation Consortium, where we're proud to be the host for the Programme and Communications Officer. We participate in conferences and workshops, and we regularly take part in the open hours supporting open source calls, which support the IIPC's open source initiatives. We partner also with researchers to help us understand their real life challenges and to inspire the way we build our services and we communicate about them. And lastly, we're proud that we work openly. We see access as a vital part of our preservation work. We seek permissions to make selected archive web content openly available, and we look to use existing licenses to make other content available. We also make sure that the data we generate about our collections can be used, whether that's full text indexes that can be searched in our user interface, or the data sets that we've generated from earlier crawls of the UK domain. So looking back over our 15-year history, these are 3 of the things that make us proud, and they continue to inspire us. Understanding the value of our collections, working in partnership, and connecting our users and public with our collections. These are values we know we share with the wider digital preservation community. So we're really grateful for this chance to join the celebrations today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. So maybe have a round of applause for the UK Web Archive and Ian's presentation. Wonderful. So thank you. So questions, let's have a check-in. I don't think there's anything in the chat box yet, Jen.
No, there's nothing in the chat, but do feel free to shout up if you have a question for Ian and colleagues.
Okay, well.
I had one actually. Is that all right, Angela?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about how, whether you've noticed much that the use of the Web Archive has changed over the 15 years that you've been going, and whether people are using it in quite different ways now to the kind of the original uses that you would have seen like 10, 15 years ago.
I think, and I'm kind of, I don't know if Nicola wants to kind of join in on this as well. There's starting to be a change. So the kind of use that we've supported from the beginning, I think, is that kind of close reading of the archive web. So it's sort of building quite small corpuses and then kind of analysing them almost kind of like qualitatively at a website or a web page level. What's changing is added to that is an interest in more kind of analytical and kind of computational science approaches, which is a challenge for us as well in terms of kind of how we support that. But we're starting to see that kind of request for kind of support and working with us as well. And it's something we want to explore more over the next year or so, is sort of how we best support that. But the close reading, I think, is still definitely there. And also the kind of building collections with us, I think, is still very much there, and still very much kind of something that researchers want to do with us.
Yes, I would support that, Ian. I think the use of the Web Archive has also changed because of our collecting mandate over the years. So initially in the early years, without the support of the non-print legal deposit regulations, we were quite a small scale selective operation. So our collection was thematic, and we only archived websites in the numbers of the thousands on an annual basis. And since 2013, with the non-print legal deposit legislation, we're able to curate the UK web domain as a whole, which has allowed researchers to look at the web in a more computational, big data way. But we still do get a thrill when the user contacts us and they're looking for a document that they can't find on the live web anymore, and the only copy is in the archive. So yes, we do support a wide range of users.
That's the best thrill, isn't it?
Yes.
Wonderful to get that kind of call. All right, thank you so much to you both.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so next up we have Anya Mahler from the Digital Repository of Ireland, and she's going to chat with us about the Atlantic Philanthropies.
Hey there. I'm very excited to be here today among so many great projects, and I hope you can hear me all well. Let me just share my screen with you. 1 second. And blow this up.
Yeah, the sound is great.
Thank you. Yeah, let me introduce you to the Amplify and Change, the history of Atlantic Philanthropies on the island of Ireland. And I'd like to begin with my project team, which are Bláthnaí Cathan, the oral historian and historical researcher, Phoebe Lynn Kowalewski, the Atlantic Philanthropies archivist at Cornell, and myself. So for those of you who don't know, the Digital Repository is a trusted digital repository here in Dublin and Ireland. Cornell University's where manuscript collections are based in Ithaca, New York, and their recent donation houses the entire archives of the Atlantic Philanthropies. And Atlantic is a philanthropic organization dedicated to advancing opportunity, equity, and human dignity. I should say there was, because last week they closed their doors. They were established in 1982 when Chuck Feeney quietly committed his accumulated wealth to the foundation. A few years before the closure, Atlantic wanted to make sure that the archives and the stories and lessons contained in those archives could be of benefit to researchers, as well as potential philanthropists considering investing in the island of Ireland. The DRI was approached to play a key role in disseminating these archives and explore the impact of achievements by Atlantic grantees. So over 30 years, Atlantic invested 1.6 billion in Ireland and Northern Ireland to advance higher education, human rights, further the peace process, and improve services and policies for young people and senior citizens. Chuck Feeney once said, use your wealth to help people, use your wealth to create institutions to help people. If it comes down to it, it's always people. And his emphasis on people is what inspired us to create this online archive in the way we have. We realized that while anyone can see from a Google search what Atlantic has achieved, the resources we made accessible here for everyone to see provide a more intimate view of the societal issues that Atlantic sought to improve, and most importantly, the thought processes that made these improvements happen. The notion that longevity and utility are threatened where contents and context are lost was key for us when creating these collections. Alongside working with Cornell on digitizing and creating business records, DRI has collected oral histories that provide personal insights and stories from the people who have been involved. Gaining unique access to records in Cornell early on has allowed us to study these grant files of these non-governmental, non-for-profit and charitable organizations. These grant files reveal the entire life cycle of Atlantic grants, from proposals to grant recommendations to final reports and rich ephemera. This was a crucial insight for us to find these stories and select the business records. In entwining these documents and stories through rich metadata, we seek to enable discovery. We are hoping this archive will be a resource for those researching social, historical, and economical change, or be informative and inspire how to bring about such change. In this archive, you can listen to the advocate for migrants who highlights the importance of independent funding, or the specialist in conflict resolution on how their work was supported. You can listen to the author of the research report called Visible Lives and highlighted the needs for the older LGBTQ community and read it. Or look at the groundwork behind Island Citizen Assembly, and there's much more such great examples. We covered about 30% of investment grants on the island, and we spread them evenly across issues, periods, and geographical locations. And I'd like to invite you to experience this archive. To me personally, it has acted as a catalyst to realize the sheer amount of combined energy that is needed to bring about societal change. It has made me appreciate the human rights we have and realize how vulnerable equality is. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yes, definitely a round of applause for Anya. Thank you so much. Just looking in the chat, I don't think we have questions in the chat, but we have time for perhaps one question. We have time for a question. Is there anyone who had one? Like to turn on their mic, or just checking?
Just a bit of praise in the chat for your website, Anya.
Thank you.
And I was lucky enough to be at your launch event last week. I think it was last week.
Oh, great. So you heard the speakers detailing.
Yeah, so it was great to be there and hear that. Oh, we have a question now from Melinda at the National Archives UK. She says, how did you approach the oral histories in terms of digital capture?
Oh, so we actually recorded onto a device straight on SD card, and then I would take the SD card and move the content with fixity from it. As for the format, we were using WAV format, and we were it was tricky in the beginning a little bit because we had multiple people collecting all the histories for us, and later on we moved to just like one oral historian. So we our format was based on the Library of Congress format specifications for that.
Great, thanks, Anya. Yeah, I think that's it for questions in the chat.
So just keeping an eye on our time. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of our finalists in the award for Safeguarding the Digital Legacy. I think there are some incredible projects here for us all to think about, and yeah, it's wonderful. Oh, sorry, I'm just reading Melinda's comment. So thank you to everyone. So now we have the excitement of hearing from the finalists for the DPC Award for the Most Outstanding Digital Preservation Initiative in Commerce, Industry, and the Third Sector. So this one, the judges acknowledge that digital preservation is a concern for all, and are concerned that case studies of good practice from commercial or industrial settings, as well as charities and nonprofits, can be quite rare. So such agencies are not generally motivated to share their experiences, while activities that may seem relatively mundane can have a profound impact on creating and extending new kinds of business or new kinds of interactions between stakeholders. So as an example, the exploitation of big data has driven innovation in the economy, while the clever deployment of legacy digital assets has opened up a long tail of commerce. Regulators concerned with lifecycle management of real-world assets recognize the need for digital preservation as hard evidence of compliance, while patent lawyers protect their clients with the presentation of authoritative evidence of novelty. So, and as well, non-governmental agencies and charities collect and preserve archives from their clients and stakeholders, acting in some cases as the archive of last resort where none other exists. So these and other innovations require practical preservation measures to be sustainable. And the judges wish to celebrate these activities and show that digital preservation is not merely a concern for public institutions. So this is quite exciting. We will hear from our finalists, starting with Fiona Bourne from the Royal College of Nursing. Hi, Fiona. And
hi there.
Perfect. Okay. So yes, we'll hear from you about your work for a new way of sharing nursing history.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Fiona Bourne, the Archive Manager at the Royal College of Nursing. As you can imagine from the intro, the RCN is not a heritage organisation. We're actually a trade union and professional association for nurses and healthcare workers from across the UK, and we have over 450,000 members. We're really delighted that our project's been considered amongst such high quality competitors, so thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you all today. We've had the preservation software Preservica since 2017, so not very long, but we've been very hard at work making what we can public on a digital archive webpage. It's freely accessible, but the only public corporate records online are actually annual reports. Useful, but not very detailed, not detailed enough to satisfy transparency. There's a great need in membership-funded organisations like ourselves to demonstrate that we are genuinely member-led. Our recent project is not just about sharing records, it's also about how we manage access while respecting data protection. Our members are the decision makers for the organisation, but they're also trade union members and we must respect their privacy. Records of trade union meetings could be distributed directly to each member, but it's so much more useful, cheaper and quicker to have a comprehensive online resource covering decades of nursing issues and achievements that they can look back on. So looking around the archive sector for answer to our dilemma as to how to do this, we found a lot of people like ourselves struggling to differentiate levels of appropriate access to records for a variety of reasons. Digital access expectations are really high. If you can access it, you should be able to access it, but that's neither advisable nor legal. So we decided to create a second virtually identical digital archive website, but this time we'd set it behind a member login. The member login works by verifying an individual's membership credentials with our highly secure membership database. Those don't exchange any data. The membership database merely says yes or no to our website, which then logs the member in. That means that our archive team don't have to risk data security breaches or maintain any encrypted records. The Member Digital Archive website works by labelling appropriate records in the digital archive as being available for member access. This sends an image of the record to the member site only and not the public one. We continually strive to improve the look, content and functionality of both sites as we take our public profile very seriously, and we aim to provide the right services to the right audiences rather than prioritising or denying either one of them. With these two factors in place, we could deliver data to the right audience. This is something which could be done with other groups, for example, students, using something like Shibboleth, like a different login system. So we wanted to share what we'd done with everyone else. No archive wants to give logins to 450,000 individual members and then try to maintain accurate personal data for them. I don't think anybody has enough time for that. So we think that this is a possible solution, not just for us, and we hope that you do too. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Fiona. A round of virtual applause for these efforts with the Royal College of Nursing website. So sorry, Melinda, I was like, I see actual hands clapping. Thank you. Isn't that exciting? All right, so I don't see any questions in the chat yet, but were there any from anyone on the floor? Oh.
I do love your comment on being the archive of last resort. I've enjoyed that.
Yeah. Well, I think I have to say something that, you know, and a question from me, I suppose, or maybe a reaction is that this is something that heritage institutions are concerned with as well. And there's probably a lot for us to learn from the third sector in this, because heritage institutions are also very concerned with access levels and how to sort of simplify that process as much as we can, even though it is very complicated. So if there's no one else has a question, I'm interested in knowing sort of how you did that with the login credentials to make it a positive user experience so that they wouldn't have to authenticate multiple times. And I wondered if you could speak to what it's like to use the archive.
There are several other resources on the RCN's main website which actually use this login system. So we just piggybacked on that and included ours in it. So hopefully you'll be able to travel between the different online resources as a member without having to redo your login a lot of the time. But one of the things that we liked about the SAML access method was that it didn't exchange data. Which is very important for us because obviously when you're a very small archive team in a non-heritage organisation, you don't get a lot of attention or funding. And if you suddenly stand up and say, I want to have secure member data in our files, please, everyone turns around and says, no, it's simply not going to happen. So it's very important for us to be able to say this is completely safe, run it past the data protection officer and actually get the go ahead to actually do things like this, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to share so much with anybody really. It's very, very important to us that the organisation sees us as enabling.
Wonderful.
We do have a question in the chat now from Brian Pickering, who asks, how do you secure the data sent to the user's terminal?
Well, you can view it online, but it isn't downloadable. So I suppose you could do screenshots and things like that, but you can't actually take the data. A lot of it at the moment is actually in the form of film and audio recordings, because we do actually record the whole process of our annual Congress meetings and annual general meetings. And I think most people quite enjoy just watching those online at the moment, thankfully.
Great, thank you. I think your aim to provide the right services to the right audiences at the right time is one that's a challenge that I think most people in this room will share.
Yes, I'm sure, yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next presenter is Patricia Sleeman. So Patricia from the UN High Commission for Refugees, who will talk to us about the records and archives.
So I pre-recorded my presentation in fear of the 3 minutes, so I got it down to 3 minutes. So welcome to UNHCR's presentation for the Digital Preservation Awards 2020. Question: if you had to flee with your life from your home, what would you bring with you?
Empty.
Wallet.
Money.
Coins.
Pennies. Torch. Whistle. Laser pointer.
Seen more clearly out at sea. 3 bags.
1 bag.
Rucksack.
Trunk. Yellow plastic bag for paper, sellotape till waterproof. And yellow cards for refugees. And national ID. Army service record.
And an information booklet from the government.
Diploma, electronics.
Certificate from high school.
Passport, if you've got one, you can take.
Expensive one-way ticket.
Fake. Flag. National flag.
Flash drive, laptop, phone.
Mobile.
Phone number.
SIM card.
Spare one.
Phone.
Smartphone with Skype and FaceTime.
Headphones.
Charger.
Overseas adapter.
House keys.
We have suffered so much. I want to study so that I can become someone again.
Welcome to UNHCR. Step inside our world of 70.8 million refugees, a staff of 17,000 working in some of the most dangerous places in the world. All these numbers you see can numb you. Don't let them. Archives and why they matter to UNHCR. History is often told by the victor. UNHCR saves the voice of the victim. Digital preservation is the only way to continue the protection of this story and memory. The challenge for UNHCR archives is to justify expenditure in digital preservation versus life-saving measures such as the Plum Peanut High Nutrition Bar, which saves lives. What would you do? How would you do this? My first mission was to Lebanon, in registration centres where I witnessed misery on a scale I had never seen. Nothing prepared me for what I saw, and I realised I had to adapt my digital preservation strategies to be relevant in a large humanitarian organisation. How do we do it? Well, collaboration is key. with our external partners, internally within our own records and archives section, within our own divisions, and with our global operation. Our main achievements: 20 years of an electronic documents records management system, 7 years of cataloguing and describing digital information, giving access to it, 4 years of web archiving digital preservation solutions with a modest budget and a small team with innovation. Thank you. We stand with refugees.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Patricia. I'm just going to see. There are. Yes, a round of applause, please, for Patricia. It's a wonderful.
That was brilliant, Patricia.
Yeah,
That was very moving.
Yeah,
We're all stunned, I think.
Yeah,
It was really, really good.
Terribly, terribly nervous. Even if I pre-recorded it, that's why I pre-recorded it. Thank you.
Being nervous, it's fantastic work. Does anyone have any questions for Patricia?
Please.
Or any answers, even?
Yeah. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, and I have lots of people I want to ask questions to after this. Yeah.
I just had a question just around kind of what the range of types of material that you have to preserve.
That's a very interesting question. So the first thing I did when I joined UNHCR is I didn't know the organisation and I didn't know the contents. I did a survey around the house, and I obviously went on a mission to understand what the content was. And it's as varied as, well, currently I'm working on a very big video project, about 200 terabytes, to our EDRMS, coupled with Office 365. I'm working on maps. I'm working on social media. That's a lot of what we're working on right now, and our web archive is a huge component of what we're doing. Everything that is designated as long-term and permanent, we will be looking at it. One of the things we've just worked out is how to preserve and make accessible again is an online video game, because of FlashPower being made redundant. And we are a very, very small team. Until recently I was 1, and now we have 2, and we borrow people who are roaming, technical expertise from the field, and I'm very fortunate that I work with some great people and a great community who have really supported me. Yeah.
Wow, well, thank you. That's incredible. I mean, we struggle with how to do video games and things like that. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Another discussion. I don't think. Yeah, happy to talk more.
Sorry, Patricia. There's a question in chat from, I think, is it Tangai? Asking, is UNHCR cooperating with other organisations, especially in the UN, to set up digital preservation service solutions?
A great question.
UN, yes.
A great question. Maria Jose is here, and of course you're here. Thank you. Initially, when I started, I thought this is the way to go. We obviously talk to each other, and we have an organisation of international organisations in Geneva, which I think Montserrat set up, the chief of our section, who's very visionary about what we're doing. Ideally, I would love that to be the case, that we work together and we have a shared cloud and we have a shared... We are cooperating, yes, but we are not sharing systems. It's clearly different projects, different budgets, very different, yeah. Who decides which data is preserved? That is a very good question. Until now, it has been me, Montserrat, and Heather, and Hilda. Head of reference, the chief of section, and Hilda, the records manager, comes in. One of the biggest challenges to UNHCR is getting the material, because once a new operation starts, people are like, well, forget that, and they move on quickly. So working with people in the field is very important. Getting information from them. And now we have in our strategy to set up a house-wide committee of more than just us to choose and decide, to raise awareness, because it's very, very important that everybody's aware of this. And just getting this nomination has really helped. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to all of our presenters. This has been wonderful. We do have a little bit more time for a couple more questions for anyone, really. If there was anything else anyone wanted to ask. Yes, Steph, I agree. Blown away by the presentations. There's some wonderful, wonderful work happening in these two categories, absolutely.
Yeah, it's always great and exciting to see the nominations of the finalists coming out for the Digital Preservation Awards and getting a sense of all this fantastic work that's going on, and getting the chance to get a real insight into what's going on. Celebrating successes is what it's all about, and it's wonderful to see. So thank you, everybody.
Well, we do have one more question for Fiona. Were there any additional charges by Preservica for setting up the second access interface?
Hi. No, they didn't. Although it was the first time they'd done it, so I'm not entirely sure that they wouldn't do charging in the future. But they didn't do the majority of the work in that sense. What they did was, with the public UA site, the module that takes the information from the digital archive, it recognises public tags, and what they did was they set one up for us that recognised member tags as well as public tags. So other than that, there wasn't a vast amount they did. The rest of it was about set up in the RCN. So hopefully, if they did do that work again with somebody, it wouldn't be very much.
It does speak to a nice bit of collaborative work between yourselves, Preservica, and your IT department, like everybody working together on the same thing. Okay, all right. I'm looking at the time. We have just a touch more time, but we could also end a little bit early if there weren't any other questions. I'm just checking if I had some questions. One for the folks with the UK Web Archive. I'm just wondering what's next for the UK Web Archive. Just a curiosity on my part.
Oh wow. Well, kind of right now it's running the domain crawl for the 2020. So we've got that set up, and we're starting to see how we manage that this year. So that's very much on our minds. I think we're really interested in kind of how we support curation within the Web Archive. So kind of description and collection building, and sort of doing it in a way that means that people who then can use the collections for research can be confident in their use. So they've got the information that they need there to do it. We were kind of had a really interesting conference in at the start of the week, engaging with Web Archives, which was kind of like, you know, kind of the need for a curator to be on hand almost. And so it's like, how do you kind of support that at more scale is one of the questions. And kind of how we deal with more complex material on the web as well. So thinking about different kind of technologies and tools for web archiving, particularly kind of more dynamic things that have always been very hard to collect, how we manage those. Yeah, I'll hand over to Nicola. And any other thoughts as well on what's next?
That sounds like a good chunk of work.
Yeah, we're never without challenges, and also sort of thinking about how we engage with research as well, and kind of what I think comes back to kind of the conversation we had earlier about kind of what the next kind of research needs to be and how we support that.
Yeah, absolutely, very interesting. All right, well, I think we're short on time. I want to thank all of our presenters, our wonderful finalists for these 2 awards. It's been wonderful hearing from you, learning about your fantastic work. Thank you to my co-chair Jen, and thank you to Angela, my tech lead. It's been great. So I wonder if we could, anyone who would like to turn their camera on and just give a round of applause with a face for all of our presenters. There's everybody in the room. Great.
Real thumbs up.
Yeah, real thumbs up, exactly. So what's coming next? We have another break, and then the next session will start in 15 minutes. We have the 3 streams. And I think Angela, will you put the URLs for the streams into the chat?
Yeah.
As well?
They're in the chat, yes.
Oh, they're right in front of me. I'm looking right at them. I'm not seeing them. This is great. So yes, stream 1, 2, and 3. If you are interested in stream 3, we just stay right here. Otherwise, enjoy the other streams you're heading off to, and have a great WeMiss iPress. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Angela. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.